start, I'd like to ask you to join me in welcoming our Attorney General, Peter Neronha. I feel very lucky to have this man as our Attorney General because he's a person of extraordinary integrity and work ethic. And this issue and so many others is not only incredibly well-meaning, but incredibly well-informed. So please join me in welcoming Peter.
Thank you, Governor, for your leadership on this issue long before I became Attorney General. Back when I was U.S. Attorney, you've been leading in this space for a long time. I've talked about this issue so frequently lately, you sometimes run out of ways to say the same thing. And so as I was preparing to come and speak today, I wanted to get some more insight about some of the numbers of what we're dealing with. And I will tell you that my experience so far in state government is that we don't track data in a way that, frankly, is very helpful. But what I asked my staff to do is go back and tell me over the last 5 years how many homicides have been committed with a firearm. And that number is 47. 47 people have died at the point of a gun in the last 5 years. 47 lives taken from gun violence. That doesn't take into account the times that fantastic trauma ER surgeons have saved lives. Doesn't take into account how many shootings there have been where the perpetrator missed. Commissioner Parry could tell you how bad some of these shooters are, thank God. Fire a lot of rounds, so sometimes they don't hit the person they're aiming at. So gun violence is a tremendous problem that we have, even in a state as safe as this one. Even in a state where our police chiefs do such a great job, and many of them are here, my friends and partners in law enforcement. Another number, over 2,000 concealed carry permits, just issued by my office alone. And that's not to suggest that these individuals shouldn't have those permits. Many of them are for employment purposes or other purposes that are legitimate, but that's still a lot of firearms out there. So the numbers speak to me at some level, but sometimes you get insight in places where you're not expecting it. I had a group of high school students come in today to talk about the law and sort of my background and why I chose to do public service at some point in my career. And I didn't know where that conversation was going to take us, but one of the things that came up was the issue we're talking about today. And they had two principal questions for me. One was a question they directed to me, and one was a discussion that I prompted. The discussion that I prompted was, I asked them, do you realize that in your high school, somebody who has a concealed carry permit can walk into your school? They were stunned by that. Absolutely stunned. These are bright kids. These are bright kids. Stunned by that. We should all be stunned by that. That's a safety threat to those kids every day, and they don't even know that it's happening in their school. The other question they asked me was, how did the guy in Westerly get the gun? A question we've been asking ourselves in law enforcement and beyond for weeks. People have asked, he shouldn't have had a gun, or stated he shouldn't have had a gun. Well, nobody disputes that. But what I think we don't know, what we don't understand or fully appreciate, is that the chief's ability to keep the guns out of hands of people with mental health issues is incredibly narrow. Incredibly narrow. If you haven't been found incompetent by a court or been institutionalized against your will, nothing will keep that gun out of your hands. Nothing. I don't know that we truly appreciate or recognize that point. We are not reaching people who have mental health issues and have access to firearms. And that's a mental health issue as much as it is of gun violence. We need to put those two things together and come up with better solutions. There's so much to talk about in this space. So much to talk about. Do you know, for example, that when we issue a concealed carry permit, local police departments don't know that we did, and vice versa. So that when a police officer pulls someone over by the side of the road and is running a check on that person, and legitimately wants to know at 2 o'clock in the morning at the roadside whether that person has a firearm, they don't have access to our information and we don't have access to theirs. Is that a problem that needs to be fixed? You bet it does. There is so much work that we can do. These bills are incredibly important, and I support all of them. But there is so much work that we can do that we ought to be able to find agreement on to make all of us safer. And if I have one message or one thought that comes out of this, that is what we should be focused on. You know, it comes back to me looking at those kids, those 12 kids in my conference room today. The future for them is ahead of them. I don't want them to lose their lives because we're afraid to make the tough decisions that will keep them safe. So at the end, it's not about the numbers. It's about the faces. The 47 faces that lost their lives to gun violence in the last 5 years, and the faces of those kids sitting around my conference room table today. And if we don't think about those faces as we make these decisions, then we're not making them in the right light. So thank you, those of you who advocate for these issues. For me, it's my job. I believe in it. But for you, you take time out of your day to come up here and do this work. And I'm incredibly grateful to you for that. And I'm grateful to the legislative leaders that put their ideas out there, that support these bills when they know the fight is going to be tough and sometimes in a given year fruitless. But you come back year after year after year and you do it. And we have some success. So thanks to all of you, and it's great to be with you as we fight this issue. Thank you very much.